So what protections do workers have in situations like this? Unions, employment law, yes, of course. But in the case of receivership or liquidation where cash or assets have simply evaporated, then what? Jane Arnott thinks New Zealand could try much harder, and for that reason she's brought a London-based organisation to New Zealand. It's the Institute of Business Ethics. Jane Arnott says there are some situations here that really do need addressing.
We don't have a lot of facility in New Zealand for people who are feeling as if there is a breach of trust going on. Where do they report it? Where do they report it when their managers are the culprits?
And that, in a nutshell, is the question. The idea is that people speak up. But in the NOSH situation, or in the kind of workplace power imbalance that can exist between a low-wage worker and an employer not behaving as they should, speak up to whom?
We have too many companies who put in place you must report a breach, but it doesn't say where they report it, it doesn't say how they'll be protected from retaliation, and it certainly doesn't say that their jobs and livelihood would be protected.
This workplace power imbalance is even more pronounced when workers are low-skilled, low-wage or new immigrants with no community or family networks to fall back on. Now, in the best of all worlds, workers would be able to know who their employer was, their history, their financial position, any previous bankruptcies, for example. But, and Jane Arnott says this is a very big but.
When people are desperate and they just want a job, very, very few will go to that level of due diligence.
Are we trying hard enough to look after workers in this kind of situation?
In an insolvency, I think we can do more.
That's William Black, a foundation partner at McGrath Nicol, formerly a partner at KPMG. A chartered accountant who specialises in solving complex business problems, including insolvency. He has not worked on the NOSH case and he knows nothing about the details. But he has seen workers left devastated in similar circumstances before.
We've had a case where employees hadn't been paid for 4 weeks and they were promised that they would be paid. The director was actually resident in Australia, actually had the gall, if you like, to put through the payroll, but then not fund the bank account so there were no funds actually available to pay the employees. And all along, there was this promise that they would be paid.
Now, managing that is almost impossible. So William Black believes we need to look at what can be done to mitigate its impact. Because, like the workers we met at NOSH, for wages to simply stop without warning, notice or any redundancy is disastrous.
And they're in an incredibly vulnerable situation in that case.
So there are two immediate responses William Black believes we should consider. One is to ensure unpaid wages get greater priority when receivers or liquidators actually have money to distribute.
To my mind, the best improvement we could make would be to follow the UK and the Australian approach, which is to say no preferential claim for the Inland Revenue Department, but let's replace that and increase the amount available for the employees. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones least able to protect their position when a company collapses.
In other words, unpaid wages take priority over unpaid taxes when there's not enough money for both. Now, that's the first possible response.
Secondly, in the UK, in an insolvency, the UK government actually steps in to pay the employees and then puts a claim in the actual insolvent company's estate.
William Black, who suggests both Australia and the UK have templates New Zealand might usefully follow. So what does the government say to this? Well, obviously they're brand new. But this afternoon we went to the office of the new Minister for Workplace, Safety and Relations. We spoke to his press secretary, Phil Reid, who returned to us a short time ago with a statement from Ian Lees-Galloway, and I quote, "There is a legitimate issue raised here, and I will work with officials and Cabinet colleagues on what options we have to address it." That statement in response to the Checkpoint investigation this afternoon from the new Minister, Ian Lees-Galloway.